GearNetwork.com.
All right, everybody, and welcome to episode number 6 of Misguided Musings. On this week's episode, we are going to start a little conversation and see where it takes us. I am Jordan. We are joined tonight with Tom and Matt.
Hola.
No Jesse tonight. He is taking a break from episode 6. First of all, how are you guys this week?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. The work's been a little crazy, so, other than that, I've been suffering through that, but I'm good. Matt, how are you?
I don't do pleasantries.
Okay, well, tonight you're going to, so how are you, Matt?
I'm full.
You're full. You're full.
Yeah, that's
okay.
the best word to
Yeah,
say.
you're full of bullshit.
Yeah, no, seriously, he really is, people. So I had an interesting conversation. What's really funny is we all know the butterfly effect, right? The butterfly effect is if you go back into time, you step on a bug, changes the whole world.
Wasn't that shitty movie that Ashton Kutcher was in?
Yeah, no, it was a definitely shitty movie with Ashton Kutcher. What's interesting, right, is what if the butterfly effect really isn't that big a deal, right? And so, we all say if you go back into time and you change anything about your past, it would fuck up like the whole future for everybody. But if you had the opportunity to go back into your past and just change something about your life and it only affected your life going forward, would you do it? That question was actually posed to me by someone I was having a conversation with this week. I wasn't quite sure how to answer that, right? And I was like, so I need to think about this a little bit. Part of me thinks that if I could go back and change things about my past, but it would only affect my life, maybe I would. For instance, I met my current wife now in high school, and I had the opportunity, I think, to date her back then, but I never took that opportunity, and so I wonder if I had taken that opportunity.
Because you didn't know how to use your cack.
But if I had taken that opportunity at that point in time, would that make it so that we were together today? Would that change us being married today? Maybe we would have grown apart in high school, but here we are, 11 years later, and we're married with a kid, and we have our own house.
Yeah, I mean, you could have still been dating the waffle waitress.
The waffle waitress?
What does that even mean?
What was her name? Daddy.
Yeah, great.
My name's Daddy. Do you want some flapjacks for that? Some butter?
Well, what's interesting, though, right, is that if I had the opportunity, so I had the opportunity before I dated Dottie to date my
You gotta
wife.
say Daddy. You gotta say Daddy.
Wait, guys. Are we really doing this?
Yeah, no, this is the conversation that we're going to have, right? If I could go back and change that and just start dating my wife back in high school when I had the first opportunity, would I do it? And it would only affect my life. It wouldn't affect anybody else's. And the question I posed was, she dated people in high school. It would obviously affect their life. And so would we be able to change things for ourselves, not have it affect anybody else's, future? And I don't think you can.
If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have run over that kid's clavicle.
Right, and then Matt wouldn't have found out that you knew him and wouldn't have had the whole class laugh at him when he said he broke his arm.
I know, and then Matt wouldn't have been the funny guy.
Right, so you doing that has actually affected now Matt's future.
Yeah, I'm not a funny guy. I'm kind of just a serious guy that people misunderstand.
Maybe if Matt wasn't the funny guy in high school, he would have done better and got a better job, made more money, and been happier right now.
That seems like too much work.
Right, but so I guess the question that I'm bringing up is, do you guys think it's possible to go back into time, given the ability that you have, given that you have the ability to time travel? Do you think it's possible to go back into time and change your own future without changing how the world would turn out? I don't think you can.
I mean, no, because I mean everything's affected by everything. You know, one little thing that you do works almost like a domino effect. You know, it's connected, but eventually it will lead to a cause or effect that could be catastrophic. You know, it could be, you know, a conversation you're having with somebody on the street, and you're having that conversation because, hey, I don't want to show up to that job interview and get that job, so I'm going to take my time and make myself late, make myself look bad. It's long story short, true thing happened. And you're talking to somebody on the street, and that person's like, oh, you know, hey, I'm talking to this weirdo. He's kind of got funny hair, weird nose, big teeth. Yeah, I'm talking to this whack job. I don't know why I'm talking to this whack job. And, you know, you're just going blah, 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 talking to this guy. You're completely fucking his day up. And then you go to the job interview 15 minutes late. And then as that guy goes, oh, I'm just going to go to lunch now. And if he happened to be working, his scaffolding would have fell and he would have died. So, you know, there's good effects and there's bad effects. I don't know where that came from.
No, I kind of get what you're saying, but you took a really long way to get there.
If you were to go back in time and change something, there's going to be good and bad, but for the most part, it would be mostly bad effect on
right. And
Earth. And it would be maybe nothing significant in history, but it would be significant to someone else's life.
Yeah, but how can you just say it's going to be bad or good? I mean, you know, I agree with you. I think that everything is. I wouldn't call it dominoes. I'd probably call it more like teeth in a gear or a cog or something. Like everything is kind of interwoven, kind of like a quilt or, you know, something like that. You know, if tomorrow, you know, I decide, you know, I've thought about this in the past. Like, you know, if I decided to leave work early one day and I get into a car accident. Well, if I had left work late, would I have gotten in that car accident?
Right, and so now it becomes a question of kind of like, was that like a fate thing? And that's such a weird thing for that to bring us to, right? Because
that's how I think religion got started, and that's one of my I think is an issue. I never believe in that philosophy. No, we can always look back and try to think that we could correct that. Or say, oh, if I could go back in time, I would do this and that. It's already happened. And you know what? Your fate is already happened. Your energy, everything that you did has left a footprint of somewhere in life. And there's nothing you can do about it. And, you know, it might have been a horrible thing, but maybe that horrible thing has taught you. Now, if somebody died because they were a certain location, and maybe, you know, if they had a different consequence here, you know, family member or whatever, I can definitely understand that. But to look back, you know, I think to live in that kind of regret is a bad philosophy. And that's just my opinion, because I've always looked at my regrets in life, and I don't know if other people have. And I've seen that, you know, stuff that I've done has improved my life. So I mean, I'm just I'm a total free spirit who just believes, hey, go do what you want. Things happen. Hey, fuck it. It's the way life is. You know. I don't know. You guys might be different.
There was a I was reading it was an Atlantic article. I was probably about a year ago now, but it was saying that basically. You don't make any decisions. All the decisions that you're going to make are already somehow predetermined in your mind, like based on years of evolution and the way the human brain operates and the different chemicals that interact with each other's, that most your decisions are sort of pre-programmed into you, and that you don't actually have control over your own fate or your destiny or anything like that. I thought that was an interesting way to look at it.
That's a good point to put. That's a very good point, Tom, because I felt that way sometimes. It's like, you know, you have a kind of thought in your head of like, okay, I'm going to do it this way. And all of a sudden it happens and you do the complete opposite. And you're like, why did I do it that way? I had no control of that. I just changed my mind that last second.
There's an actual whole school of, not religion, but there's a whole school of thought around this. It's called the decision tree. And what it is, you make a decision, but your fate is pre-planned out. Your life and your death is obviously your life and death. And things happen in life based on decisions that you make, right? The decision that you have to make is actually already there for you. And if you choose to make one decision, that sends you down one path. If you were to choose to make a separate decision, it would have sent you down a different path. But in the end, the next fork in the road, so to speak, or the next like branch off, is a whole separate way of deciding the path that you get to the next predetermined stop, so to speak. And basically, it's all about the decisions that you choose to make without knowing what the consequences are going to be. So if say you didn't have a GPS, right, and you just wanted to drive and you started driving west, and you come to a point where there's a fork in the road and you're taking back roads, and you go, okay, well, I'm going to go right. Meanwhile, on the left path, there's a car accident and a 50-mile backup. But you can't see that. You don't have your GPS, you don't have your phone, you don't have anything. It's just you look into the unknown and decide, okay, well, I think if I take the right path, that'll get me to where I want to go. If I take the left path, it may be a longer ride, or it may be the scenic route or whatever, and I want to get the direct way there. And so you make an assumption based on the facts that you have at the time, and that assumption will then bring you to the next point in this, so like the decision tree almost.
Well, it's interesting too, because I think since the invention of computers and the collection of data, we have started to become more of an analytic society, and we've started to look deeper into everyday things that occur, and more of our decisions are tending to be data driven, as opposed to before, when maybe they were gut reactions to different situations or that you would find yourself in. But to go back to that Atlantic article that I was reading, that I was talking about, if all of your decisions are already programmed into your head because of I don't know, the way evolution works, or the chemicals, or I don't know, whatever is going to make these decisions for you, I guess years and years and years of evolution, why does it even matter?
Yeah, it's just, it's funny, right? So it matters because it's the way that you get there, right? So for instance, Tom, you went to school with me in college for a little bit, right? And then you decided that you didn't want to go back to that school. And so you went in a different direction to get to the point where you're at today. Maybe choosing to stay in that school would have brought you in a more direct route to where you are right now.
You'd be more broke.
See, but if you're talking about your tree theory, where everything kind of branches off from each other, then are there intersecting lines, or are there intersecting branches? When you think about
there foliage?
Is there foliage? Does it change colors? When you think about like a family tree and genealogy, and I think that's probably what most people, well, it's at least the imagery that I have in my head as we're talking about this decision tree, or even flow charts, or I don't know, whatever charts you would use in like the corporate world or in the business sense. I don't see intersecting lines. You know what I mean? I'd see probably more of like a flow chart where you go down to one. Is the oven on? Yes or no? If no, turn the oven on. If yes, put the food in. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily see intersecting lines. Maybe a loop or something, but.
So what you're basically saying is we're all programmed, so the Matrix really is. It really exists.
The Matrix
and
is
when you see
real.
Deja vu,
we're human batteries, Matt.
And when we see Deja vu, that's a glitch in the Matrix.
I have Deja vu every single day.
So you're having lots of glitches.
I'll remember something. I'll watch something happen in front of me, and then like a minute later, I'll be like, "Oh man, I feel like I saw that happen. And then I'll be,
Can-
oh yeah, I
can
saw
I
it
ask
happen a
you-
minute ago.
Guys, a question, and because we're on this topic, I mean, basically, we're talking about philosophy, and maybe a different circumstance. But maybe to go a little off topic, and this may go into the whole human mind, and people, what registers and what makes a person decide on doing something. I don't know if you guys' minds is very visual. I have a very visual mind, and lately I've noticed that in the last couple of years that my mind has like changed, and one of the things that's changed about it is that I don't see my past that much, but I see places in my past, if that makes any sense. I don't necessarily remember something from my childhood, but I see that place, and I'm not there in that memory, but that actual location is there. And that could be something from, since I was 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. I don't know, but I know that location.
So are you talking about like this as a dream?
I'm awake right now, and I visualize this, and it could be something in which I'm just, having, thoughts, memories, pondering something, and then I'll just think of.
So give me
Okay,
like
for instance.
So this is like a daydream, right?
For instance, I'm at work and I'm working on a project, an Excel sheet, and I'm frustrated with it. And I kind of not doze off, but I kind of try to recollect on, how do I edit this? How do I fix this? And then all of a sudden, I try to go, I'm problem solving. And then all of a sudden, I have this memory, a visual of the outdoor of my grandmother's backyard. And I can't really, I don't understand why I have that vision, because right now I'm extremely frustrated and I just want to fix a fucking Excel sheet. And, there's a couple of digits off and, the formula's fucked up, but that's what I'm visualizing. And I don't understand it. Maybe it's just because my mind's very erratic, and it might have something to do with having ADHD or something like that. But I've noticed recently I've been having that, and I've been seeing certain locations. Like my mind, I'll be talking, and all of a sudden I just visualize a location. And are you guys minds like that?
Well, only when I take a dump, I like to think about like being outside, and then that gets my juices flowing.
So, to be serious for a second, does that help you?
No, it doesn't.
Problem?
It's weird how my mind has changed, and I feel like every 10 years my mind's reprogrammed a little bit, and I solve things differently. I see things differently. My mind works differently.
Well, I think that's just called daydreaming, Matt. I think that's just when you're frustrated with something, you must. I mean, and now we're getting into psychology maybe a little bit, but I think you're just going to a place where maybe you felt comfortable or that you enjoyed as a child, and in a moment of frustration or you're basically seeking comfort.
Perhaps, and I'm sorry for going off topic there, guys, but I thought it was a
no. That's kind of been the whole point of what I wanted to do with this show. Honestly, is to see where this kind of took us. In a natural progression, because I just wanted to say, I mean, so have you ever had the reverse where, you're working on something and then you find it completely engaging and you enter like a flow state where, you're just able to work for what seems like hours, or no, what actually seems like minutes, but actually is hours, and you're making incredible progress and you're really ingrained in what you're doing. Have you ever hit that? Oh yeah, no, that happens to me all the time. In fact, where that happens to me the most, honestly, is if I'm reading a book. If there's a book that I really get into, I could sit and read it for hours, and the next thing I know, I look up and I'm like, oh my god, it's 11:30, it's midnight. I have to be up in 4 hours or whatever, and that happens to me quite a bit. And I mean, it happens to me, when I'm doing different things, like when I was really big into photography, and I just haven't had the time to keep up with it. But
it was probably, for me, it's mostly like creative things, like when I'm creating something or I'm working on solving problems, not necessarily, reading or maybe learning. I'm not sure. I guess a book could really be, when you boil it down, a form of learning. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. So when I was doing photography and I was doing like editing of the pictures, I could spend hours editing and really kind of get myself into a mode where I didn't want to stop. And then what I'd find was that, like I would sit back for a minute and my eyes would start to focus or try and refocus on things other than the computer screen. And, and I'm sure you've had this happen to you where you sit and all of a sudden your eyes start to sting and you have a hard time focusing on something other than what's on the computer screen. And you realize that you've been doing this now for 3 or 4 hours. If that's what you're talking about, that happened to me all the time.
It happened to you probably last week when you were editing the last episode that we posted.
Oh my God, man.
You would hit the flow state, editing that
episode,
and burps and stuff.
I edited like segments 2 and 3 of that episode in like 6 hours. It took me forever, but I was sitting there and I was going through and, editing that whole episode actually was not only, it was actually kind of nice because I found myself like missing things that were said or being able to kind of like laugh. After we recorded that episode, I was like, I'm not going to be able to use any of this. I was really not happy with it. But, after recording it, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. Like, I can't believe I missed this. But doing something in the moment, you tend to kind of forget some of the things that happened. And so you focus on the things that are negative sometimes instead of the positive things about it. But, where I find myself having some of these moments of clarity, and this is going to sound weird, but I feel like I dream a lot. I will be doing something, for instance, like putting a dish away in my kitchen. And this is true. This is what happened to me. I was putting a dish away in my kitchen 3 weeks ago, and I had had this sense of deja vu, to go back to what Matt had said. But it was weird because there was there was something that triggered that sense of deja vu. And, I put dishes away in my kitchen all the time. It's not that big a deal. But there was like a certain conversation that I was having that felt familiar. There was a smell that like, it was like all of my senses and everything had said to me, you've seen this before. You've done this before. And that happens to me. I'll have a conversation with somebody at work and be like, oh my God, I feel like I've lived through this before, and I'm almost shocked that it's happening, and I feel the sense of deja vu, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And that, to me, I love having those feelings because it makes me feel like there's something bigger at work. I don't know if you guys feel that way.
I just think that deja vu is like my mind. Because think about everyday life and the amount of memories that you build up and you generate and you try to store, and I just feel like deja vu is just me not able to remember those memories. But there's still some form of them in my mind. I'm just not able to recall them, in a way that is I can't bring it up 100%. I can't put the picture back with all the pieces of the puzzle. It's missing this or that.
So it's something that you feel like you've done before, but actually done before? Or is it, because like I said, it's something that I know has happened to me before in a dream. And I can't place it, but I know that it's happened. I know that I've felt that way. Part of me thinks that when we dream, right, it's, and this is a very popular thought, it's your mind's way of coping with the events of your day or your week.
Also your fears.
Yeah, right, exactly. And part of me thinks that that's not exactly accurate because I dream about things that will never happen, or I've dreamed about things that have happened and I'm reliving them. And so part of me is like, okay, well, the things that I dream about that I've relived are situations that my mind still can't deal with. And last episode I spoke about being held up, right? And so, not to beat a dead horse, but after that incident, I actually had a few instances where I would have a dream about, certain situations that I was put in, and, like for instance, I would have a dream of, looking at the gun, or I'd have a dream of looking down the hallway of my store which is where we had been moved to at one point. And I think that was my mind's way of helping me deal with that situation while I was asleep. And then there are things that I've dreamt about where I don't necessarily feel like I've lived them or they're experiences that I've had, but it's, I don't want to say preparing me for something, but I've dreamt of something in the future, or a place I've never been to before, or a place that I've never I can't put my finger on, but it's.
I think it might be a sense of therapy for you. I think it's your mind trying to absolve you from the situation, and that might be its way of coping with it. And
I 100% agree.
I think dreams are very therapeutic that way. I've had dreams before in which I've had, really a couple years ago, I had a really bad bout with anxiety, and, I was convinced for a whole year I was going to die. And it turned out I was just really depressed. And, it turned out I also had mono too, so that could have been the main reason. But anywho, one of the things that helped me through it was the dreams. Like, I had one dream one night, and this was really bad. And it was kind of the time when I was just like, if I'm going to fucking die, I'm going to die. I really don't care. And I had this dream one night, and all of a sudden, I could just visualize it. I'm in a room, and all of a sudden, the fucking power went out. Everything went out. Like, we're talking in the whole house. It just total darkness. And it almost felt like my mind just, went off too. And I just had a few, I don't know, I just immediately woke up, and it was almost like I had this big, huge fucking headache. And my breathing was just I had a panic attack in the sense. And after that night, I stopped having those nightmares, and my anxiety kind of, dissipated. And, I occasionally get it, but now it's more just anger, like last Sunday night's football game. But anyway, I felt like my dream was therapeutic for me, because I think it was the sense of, I'm at a state of consciousness where I don't have all these things to worry about. I'm not doing something to distract it. I'm just, dealing with my life, and I'm dealing with the stream of consciousness, everything I see, all my thoughts, all my fears, all my objectives. And it was my sense of my mind in the back of me telling me, everything's fine. You just get over it. You can deal with this. You're only 28 years old. We can deal with this. And I saw those dreams as therapeutic, and then I really saw the point of break of everything that was happening was from that dream, waking up from that nightmare. And it was fucking scary when it happened, because I thought it was I
agree with you, Matt. Or I think that dreams serve a purpose, which is to kind of help you deal with some of the emotions that you have with different situations. I had a dream last night, and this was kind of I don't normally remember my dreams, but I had a dream just last night. I had an employee at work, and this is real life. I had an employee at work who decided he was just going to stop showing up, and he left us in a very busy time, and there was a lot of stress on my head because I now had to figure out how to squeeze that work onto an already small amount of people, a short staff. And last night I woke up, and I'm just thinking there. I'm like, oh my god, I just dreamed that he came back to work, and I was able to fire him. And it clicked in my mind. It made me feel okay with the situation, even though there was a lot of stress and anxiety there. It kind of allowed some of that to wash away and made me feel better, and was able to just get up and get stuff done today.
Because in your mind, without overthinking everything, you fired him, Tom. In your mind, you did.
In my mind, all is square.
It's a lift off your shoulder.
A little bit.
Just a little bit, because it's not reality. But
there's
slightly reality.
But seriously though, when you think about kind of the devices that are there to help us deal with everyday life, dreams are definitely one of them. You know what I mean? And they're there. I think that they serve two purposes. One is to help us with those emotions, like I just said, and I think the other one is probably more fundamental to how we retain a lot of information in our minds. There's been a lot of studies on like REM sleep, and the purpose behind that, which is to store long-term memories and to store different information in your brain. But I love sleep. I want to go to sleep right now.
So what you guys are talking about, right, is your body's way of processing and filing thoughts and helping you deal with situations that on a regular basis you have a hard time dealing with. Okay. So Matt, your anxiety, it's hard for you to face your anxiety head on sometimes. And so while you're sleeping, your mind can comprehend your anxiety.
Yeah.
Because you're not distracted by anything else, and it allows it to help you combat that anxiety. Okay, what I'm asking, and I'm gonna. So I've had dreams before of places that I've never ever been to. And they're vivid. You see things and they trigger other thoughts, and it's like, okay, this is someplace I've never actually seen this before. And then I wake up and I go, what the fuck was that? And I guess my question is, what do the dreams that don't have any bearing on that, on things that I've seen or things that I'm going through, what do those have? What is my body trying to tell me? What is my mind trying to tell me? And that's the thing that I'm having a hard time dealing with sometimes, because like when I look at a dream like that, I go, what is this? Why did I have this dream? Right. And so, I've had a dream where I was standing in a forest, right. And I'm looking and there's a waterfall in front of me. And, I've never been there before. I couldn't tell you where it is, but it's like, it almost feels familiar. And then when I wake up, I go, where the hell was that place? And it just makes me wonder why I'm seeing things that I've never seen before in a dream.
It might be a creative side of you too, because I feel like sometimes dreams are kind of like the creative side of us. It's kind of like it's us telling our own stories, and we're not essentially writing them, but we're essentially reliving them. Like I've had dreams before where it's a movie and it has nothing to do with me. Like I'm just almost like a fly in the wall, and I'm watching these people live other people's lives, their lives. Like I had a dream one time of a guy who worked at a rehab center, and it was him bicycle riding down Baltimore very early in the morning to get to the rehab center to make sure that the heroin addicts were getting their methadone. And I mean, why the fuck am I dreaming about that? I mean, there's no meaning to that. And by the way, that was like 5 years ago before the heroin epidemic, so maybe another glitch in the matrix. But I feel like there's a creative side to us in dreams, and sometimes dreams don't necessarily are our thoughts and fears and
don't forget it,
but they
personality
could be,
traits too.
Yeah, it's as Tom said, it's things we pick up, and it's us creating a different reality in the sense. And there was a statement one time I heard, and basically it was, like in all dreams there's monsters, and that monster could be anybody, a burglar, it could be an actual monster. Sometimes we have dreams of goblins and fairy tales, obviously things that can't happen in real life, zombies. But that monster in the dream, it's you, and it could be the fear or the anger or something that you have in your life and you can't get out. And getting back to the therapeutic side of a dream, sometimes that monster can't be beaten, and it's always going to be there. It's just you have to think to yourself that when you're having these dreams, that's just a part of your personality. Now, once it starts affecting your life, of course, it's a little bit different, but it's personalities as well, Jordan. It could be that sense of you wanting to be out in nature, and it's a character that is inside of you that maybe you've gotten from a video game, watching a movie. It's our dreams, and all the visions that we see in it are recollected from things we see. So I don't think it's just some made up belief.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this as a point to leave off. I'm gonna refer to this as our Pink Floyd episode. Basically just kind of a jam session.
Do some drugs, people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, listen to, maybe we should put a disclaimer in that people should listen to this while on acid. No, but I think this is a good place to leave off. I do want to say one thing, right? So, we all here have talked about kind of dreams that we've had or things that we've experienced. And, we don't get, I don't get to see much listener interaction. And so I'm making sure that we have an active message button on our Facebook page. And I'm going to make sure that you can direct message us on Twitter. So if you go to Twitter, we are at Musing Podcast. If you go to Facebook, it's www.facebook.com/misguided musings. Send us some information about dreams that you've had, or maybe your thoughts on the subject of dreams, and if you think they mean more than what they really are. Because this is one of those topics that I would love to come back to sometime and kind of discuss, and maybe have some different perspectives on it. I appreciate, you listeners kind of sticking through this episode. This was kind of just an experiment for me. I wanted to see where one start of a conversation could take us, and I think it took us in a very different direction than where we ended up, in a very different place than where we started off the show. And I think that to me is very, very cool and very interesting. So sorry that I had to use this episode as as a vehicle for a social experiment, if you will, or a
mind trip.
Like a little, just a little experiment of my own. But again, send us your thoughts and feedback, or some of the experiences you've had. If you have a moment and you don't mind, again, we are www.facebook.com/misguided musings. I'll make sure the send message button is active. And you can also see us on Twitter at Musing Podcast. I am at J_K_Oster, and Matt is at Bill Castle 88. And I thank you for listening to episode number 6, the Pink Floyd episode of Misguided Musings.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.